Welcome to the spiritual discipline of art appreciation. I'm Tucker.
And I'm Zayne.
That's Zayne. That's my good buddy Zayne. This is the pilot episode, the first episode. So thank you for joining us. We're going to, first of all, jump into like what the purpose of this is, because, I mean, you might be looking at this long, very kind of, nerdy sounding title maybe, and you might be like, what the heck are these guys up to here? And why are they talking about the movie we're talking about today in this podcast? So I'm going to let Zayne tell us a bit about that.
What a way to start, eh, Tuck?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to find out if this is a bad decision pretty soon.
I guess you guys, maybe you haven't seen this movie. Well, you'll find out what we're talking about, but I'm going to lay it out for you. I'm going to lay it out how we're going to lay it out. Does that make sense?
That's awesome.
To experience art as a blessing. This is the purpose, the goal. To experience to experience art as a blessing and allow for that to experience and have it allow for that experience to shape us first and foremost through the lens of our faith. We recognize that art is good because God is good and He made art. Sometimes God made really challenging and provocative art. Sometimes He made really simple and beautiful and expressive art.
Yeah.
It's still art. And we want to talk about that, and we want to talk about how it affects us. That means we'll be reviewing from time to time nice, cute, fun Pixar movies. Yeah. But that's probably going to be the lesser of what we talk about. But it means we'll be reviewing art, whatever it may be, not just as art itself, but how it works and speaks to deeper realities. So like cinematography might be great in a movie, but
indeed,
the acting might be compelling, but we'll be asking ourselves questions like, does this say anything about spirituality? Does it have something to say about who God is? Oh. Does it hold a mirror up to kind of like the brokenness of the world? Is there a theme of redemption and hope and beauty? Could it even align with elements of the gospel, even though it doesn't have anything to do with Jesus per se?
Yeah, Jesus doesn't show up, but it's like got those important elements. It's not... I'm not talking about God's not dead here, you know?
Yeah. I have one particular movie that was like, that's the most beautiful like representation of like the gospel that is so far from what anybody would think is the gospel, like being portrayed. It's like a horror movie.
Ooh, we might have to talk about that.
We'll probably break that movie down in the future. I won't spoil the action, but
so that's important. Actually, you mentioned, it's a horror movie talking about, Jesus and including in this podcast. We're gonna dig pretty deep for some of these concepts that we're talking about, and I think that takes maturity and discernment, and that also means that like you said, probably the minority of what we talk about is going to be appropriate for everyone. Mm-hmm. So, even if we strike spiritual gold in a work of art, there may be things in it that would make it unhealthy for one person or another to consume. So remember, what we're not doing is going and saying, hey, you gotta go watch this movie immediately. Go read this book or listen to this music because it says something that's kind of vaguely spiritual. That's not what we're doing. Be discerning, and like if you're thinking about sharing this with the kids, maybe don't.
Yeah, maybe
don't.
Maybe think a little bit harder about that one.
Yeah,
but maybe also don't. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Parent your kids how you want, man. If you want them to be watching like the weird like European stuff we're probably gonna end up watching, then go ahead. I won't stop you.
My kids watched the movie we're breaking down today with me twice.
Is that true?
I'm just kidding. They did not do that. I was holding my 6-month-old son for part of it. And
he doesn't know what's going on.
He doesn't know. He doesn't have any idea. But generally speaking, we're going to kind of lay out what each episode will kind of flow through, what the structure will be, and then we'll dive in. Does that work?
I'm so ready.
So generally speaking, we're going to talk mostly about movies, but we're not going to limit ourselves to only talking about movies. We'll talk about and review new music albums, television series, short films, documentaries, pretty much anything that can be considered art. And I've already had some people recommend that we take a look at like Goya's black paintings. Have you heard of those? Oh, yeah.
Yes, no, I love the black paintings, actually.
I would love to. Let's pull up Saturn devouring his son.
That's one of my favorite paintings ever, actually.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it a little bit. But each episode will have one featured piece of art that we'll spend the majority of our time talking about. So we'll take turns selecting that piece of art. Tucker and myself will kind of jump back and forth, making sure that it's something that none of us have experienced before. So, sometimes, yeah. We'll try and make that a priority, but maybe I've watched the movie once 5 years ago and I thought this is a great movie, we should talk about it. Or, we're going to try to make it something that we haven't experienced before, but it might be few and far between. So for some special episodes, we may talk about a brand new or a newly released work of art that none of us have otherwise seen.
Yeah.
So Tucker and I are both going to be taking in that selected piece of art without sharing our thoughts with one another. So I even had the thought like this, like, we may go see a movie together in theaters, but I'm not going to talk to you about it.
Yeah, that's such a funny idea. I was thinking about that when you had that stipulation. It's like, well, yeah, we can't share our thoughts, but like we'll just like walk, both looking straight ahead, side by side.
High five on the way out.
No words, blank stares.
I don't want to know whether you like that movie or not.
Yeah, don't even give me so much as a thumbs up, dude.
But then we'll gather, we'll sit down, and we'll talk about our thoughts at that point. Maybe we'll share a little bit here and there up front, but it's going to be raw, it's going to be uncut, it's going to be unfiltered, it's going to be real, baby. It's
going to be real. We're going to talk. I don't know where that joke was going. Whatever.
Who cares?
There's not really a place it could go that was
we don't
cool.
We don't currently have like a perfect method of selecting which art is going to be dissected. We'll kind of jump back and forth, but we'll figure out a good consistent rhythm of that. And also, we want you guys to recommend art to us. So while we're here, I want to let you know, write this out. This is our email. Email us all of your hate mail. Make fun of us, and then also attach your recommended piece of art that we take it in. So TSDOAA 2025@gmail.com. It's just the spiritual discipline of art appreciation, just the first letter, TSDOAA 2025@gmail.com. Shoot us your recommendations.
Yeah, that email made it seem very real. You set up a whole email.
Oh yeah. I'm
gonna have to log into that. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for the 0% recommendations. All messages we received, just like sarcastically worded emails about like, oh, just what we needed. 2 more white males talking about movies,
talking about art, like pretentious jerks.
2 more.
Well, guess what? You're listening to it, and by virtue of my will, you are being forced to listen to it. I'm forcing this upon you.
Yeah, you've already been here for over 5 minutes. Yeah. Our pure charisma is radiating out from your speaker.
You have no choice but to continue. Yeah, right? You're being entranced. Yeah, continue listening. Wow. Well,
that's not part. That part's not spiritual. We're not doing witchcraft or anything.
No. We just have
a mysterious power.
Yeah. Speaking of mysterious power,
that's actually a perfect segue. You're right.
Talk about this movie. All right. So
what did we watch, Zane?
We watched The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I believe it's 2017. Directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Is that how you correctly pronounce it?
Yorgos Lanthimos, I think. Greek boy.
Yorgos Lanthimos. Yep. Greek filmmaker, known for currently he directed Poor Things.
He did. He also made The Lobster, with Colin Farrell, who was in this movie. And an earlier movie called Dogtooth, I think.
Yep, I've heard of Dogtooth. I added it to my watch list on Letterboxd, which maybe next episode we'll share our Letterboxd where you can.
That's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought about that, but yes.
I was going to write it out, but I thought maybe I'll just mention it since I'm going to listen back to this. Give myself a little future note.
Sure, yeah.
I should mention watching the movie while we're recording this. And
part of it.
Part of the movie. And it is at one of the most bizarre scenes to take.
Oh my gosh, that's one thing
we will get to.
So much of my processing power this episode is going to be just the weirdness. And he's doing something specific with it.
Let's briefly say what this movie is.
Yeah, let's get some context.
For those of the listeners who haven't watched the movie, there will be spoilers included.
Yes, heavy. That will go for every episode, by the way.
Yep.
No mercy. All spoilers.
But also, this movie's been out for
7 years.
7 years. So go watch the movie.
Yeah.
Maybe don't go watch the movie, but
like we said, be discerning.
Yeah, be discerning. But this movie is a rendition of a Greek myth.
Yeah. It takes some elements
by Euripides, right?
Euripides, yeah. So it's
Iphigenia.
Yeah, the tragedy of Iphigenia. It's like it takes some story elements from it, but it's not like one to one.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I went in blind, not knowing that angle whatsoever. Yeah, we're in this part. This part's weird too.
Also horrendously weird.
You had mentioned that it was like Greek myth. And I kind of almost wish I hadn't listened to you when you said that because
I'm sorry, brother.
No, you're cool. I mean, I just think it was one of those things where like going in without any kind of frame of mind, I think would have even been like a crazier experience. But having that frame of mind still, I think was somewhat helpful. because in my brain it helped me kind of figure out why he's doing what he's doing with this movie, and it took me in a different direction than he was doing with this movie. I looked it up, and I was actually surprised to discover that it was based on a play about people, and I'll explain why when we get deeper into the movie. But it's got some plot elements from this myth about Agamemnon.
You're a nerd, Tucker. I should add that.
I think you are too, Zane. I think you are too. We're perfect for this.
This is going to be so fun, dude. I'm so excited. Yeah. I'll just briefly read the kind of summary from Letterboxd to kind of set the stage. This is my favorite part of the movie, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
Also, all the shots of children crawling around make me laugh, and I'm wondering if that's on purpose.
So incredibly unsettling. But I'll bring that back up later.
I think you could read this as a really dark comedy, but that's just me. Anyway,
this is the summary. Dr. Stephen Murphy is a renowned cardiovascular surgeon who presides over a spotless household with his wife and 2 children. Lurking at the margins of his idyllic suburban existence is Martin, a fatherless teen who insinuates himself into the doctor's life in gradually unsettling ways. What a mild way to put that.
Yeah, it's a very clear description of a movie that sometimes is like, what am I watching?
I would watch that with my wife, and then you start watching it, and you're like, dear God. Unsettling.
Wife, leave this room. Leave the room, wife.
Wife, I don't want to do this to you. I'm so sorry I brought you. I'm so sorry I brought this upon you. But,
oh man.
Okay, so maybe general intake. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you like it? Did you kind of like or was it just like, this is a movie?
I liked it. I thought I liked it. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm.
I think I stand by that. It's such a unique experience. It feels, like the Wikipedia says it's a surreal movie, and I do think it achieves that quality, like really well. Like that feeling of just like,
it's like a fever dream.
Well,
the whole time.
Yeah. So I think surrealism is not just like throwing things at you with no rhyme or reason, and it just like being like, hey, you've never experienced this before, right?
Yeah.
It's surreal. It's just like, it's just kind of like just outside the realm of what we know, and like, because it's almost a low fantasy where it's just like the fantastical breaking into the normal, but like. Yeah, it's just like if everything that we experience as human beings is in a sphere, it's like just kind of poking its butt out of that sphere.
Just on the outside of that sphere.
It's not quite.
It's kind of fuzzy on the edges.
Yeah, so I liked it. I thought the experience was. I still wasn't prepared for the experience when I was going in.
Yeah, me neither, dude.
But I think it was. I think it was good, and as we'll dive into later, I think part of that is because I do think there is something worth reflecting on. We'll get into that later, but what did you think?
I really liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it.
No,
because there are elements in it that I could do without, and there were elements in it that just were maybe too far reaching for me, or I just couldn't quite understand the purpose of, which again is maybe more on me than on what maybe Yorgos was attempting to communicate, but also art's subjective, so I can take away from it what I please. But I don't think I don't think it's a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I was enthralled. I was very attentive. I was like, the movie had my attention for the whole length. And this is where from the very beginning, the opening shot of this movie, I don't know if I don't know if you could. This is the first thing that I noticed, obviously, but I don't know if you could have started this movie in a more unsettling way. I had no idea what in God's name was happening.
Really?
I was like, is this a lamb? Is this a deer? What are we watching here? Is this
a real heart surgery?
It's a real active open heart surgery on a like a living, breathing human being.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like a slow fade.
Oh man.
From a close up, this heart is beating and these doctors are like moving stuff around. And there's just this weird ambient droning noise behind it. It's very odd.
The music's great in this movie.
The music is very great.
And I've been noticing this more movies that have like the long dark shot at the beginning with music
Yeah.
over it. The Zone of Interest does that.
It's powerful.
An incredible example of that. But
The extended intro to that movie is like 9 minutes long or something. It's so long.
it's so long.
This one's like maybe
this one's not nearly as long, but it's going for a different thing. But yeah, like that heart surgery,
very shocking,
very like good. I think it's a great example of, well, maybe he's setting you up for the whole movie because you're watching this heart pump and it's a very normal human thing. And like once you realize what it is, like, oh, it's a heart pumping. But you're looking at it for so long that it starts to become alien and weird. And like you start noticing the little pieces hanging off of it. And you're like, what is that? That's gross. I don't like looking at it anymore. And it achieves that same kind of like detachment that you feel throughout the whole movie.
yeah.
So
and you begin to realize it's pretty much immediately revealed that our main character, Colin Farrell, his character Steven is a cardiovascular surgeon. He is presumably the one that is operating on that heart. My mind immediately goes to, is that the heart of a very specific character that's referenced later in the movie that I don't want to spoil that this early as we're talking about it. We'll obviously get there, but my mind was like, that's interesting. That on the second watch,
that's a super real possibility.
I watched it twice, and he takes his gloves off, and he kind of looks like, I don't know how to express it. He kind of looks like emotionless, void, like not really fulfilled by what he's doing. Just like couldn't care less about operating on this heart. Just kind of passive. And then
we got to talk about this moment.
Oh yeah,
sorry. I did notice that too. He almost looks like forlorn. Like he's like, there's kind of a disappointment there.
Yeah,
or maybe you're right. Yeah, it's like detachment or just like total apathy.
Yeah. But the thing that immediately caught me right after that is you have your first instance of dialogue, and the dialogue in this movie, dude, is incomprehensible.
Well, wait, before we get to that, can we talk a little bit more about the music? Because I thought it was super fascinating.
Sorry.
No, you're good, because I really want to spend a lot of time on the dialogue and the acting.
My gosh, dude.
But the music, it honestly reminded me of like there's like high and resonant strings and noises, and it almost makes me think of silent films. There's like a few moments where I could see like the really high pitched strings and everything, the discordance and everything. Like I could see the dialogue cards coming up.
Yeah.
I could imagine it in my mind as a silent film. And I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but
I haven't watched very many silent films, but I know what you're saying. And I kind of, looking back, there's one instance in particular that it almost is a silent film.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they're in a hospital, and it's the first time that they're in the hospital, and there's this droning, like ramping tremolo organ that's just, you can, like, I almost thought my TV speakers were broken, like my surround sound system.
Yeah.
My extremely nice Vizio surround sound system.
Just so you're aware, Zayne has a really nice home theater.
No, it's not that nice.
If you're not familiar with his game.
It's very cheap. But I almost was like, why is the dialogue getting completely droned out by, this is on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's other moments where like the drone is like really thrashy and weird, and it's always when like something evil
and weird and kind of manipulative,
and it's very different from the rest of the music in the movie.
Yes.
It's jarring the first time you hear it.
There's another instance of music that I wrote down later that there's the beginning of the movie is like almost this operatic, like
it's very big,
beautiful, big, bombastic, like operatic fanfare, almost not quite fanfare, not as many horns, but and it thins out as the movie goes on, does it not? Okay, that might be a thread. I'm gonna tuck that away. I'm gonna think about that later. Put that in the put that quill in the hat.
That first conversation.
Oh, sweet mercy!
It's
about to watch.
It's very mundane.
It sets the tone for the movie.
It's very mundane.
Yeah,
and it introduces a lot of motifs of the dialogue.
Yeah,
which is like, I wrote this all down because I was processing it like as it was going, and I was like, it's very mundane, but it's stilted and weird, and this is the sentence I wrote. It almost feels like not real conversation, or maybe it does, and it just feels weird because it isn't movie dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, it's filled with like unnecessary details.
It's
weird.
very obvious. It's very obviously purposeful.
Yeah. There's like weird nothing sentences. Words are delicately enunciated.
There's a lot of repetition.
There's a lot of repetition
for unnecessary things. Like, there's a constant. Again, be discerning with how you take this movie in. If I have to hear one more movie talk about periods again, I'm going to lose my mind. Dude, the amount of times
I literally wrote down a short compilation of my favorite weird lines. There's when they're at the dinner table. Do you have any weird lines that stood out to you?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, yeah, you go. We'll trade off a few.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Let's go. Here's some weird lines in the movie, folks.
They're at the banquet.
Prepare your ear holes.
They're at the banquet, and Steven is giving the speech about everything, and they go away, and they're having a short, like, small talk conversation, and the guy's like, "Hey, how are things going?" He's like, "My daughter had her period today." He's like, and then the guy's response is, "Great."
It's a totally normal update to give your friends, your colleagues.
And then they just move on.
They do. They really do.
They just go right past it. Yeah, that's a good one.
When they're at the dinner table, this is very early in the movie, they're at the dinner table, and Nicole Kidman says, "We all have lovely hair." As if it's the most normal. That's the thing. Most every line of dialogue in this movie is delivered like it's the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah, okay. I have a theory. I believe that, okay, again, the dialogue is incredibly mundane.
Yeah.
Incredibly
filled with wild, just random details.
Just wild random details. Incredibly monotone.
Yep.
And unless what I experienced was, unless there's negative emotion being displayed for a specific reason, there's no positive emotion or inflection in the language or the dialect. Yeah. There's almost no interruption by the characters whatsoever.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Anytime somebody is talking, they complete their thought, and then another person immediately interjects, like right away. There's no consistent, real, authentic conversation in the movie whatsoever. Yeah. Everything is just like jagged and sharp and harsh and cut, and I mean, it's like really odd.
Yeah, but I had that thought at first. I was like, is it because it's supposed to be really realistic? But then they start seeing really weird stuff, and it's like, no,
this is the opposite. There's a lot of other things. I mean, there's a very, like, probably the most, I don't know, maybe the most referenced conversation in the movie that I've seen is whenever Martin, the crazy boy, is eating spaghetti later in the movie, and he's talking about murdering people or whatever it may be, and then he's just like, yeah, a bunch of people told me that
I eat spaghetti like my dad.
I eat spaghetti just like my dad, but then I realized everybody eats spaghetti like that, and it made me very sad. Also, I have to go to class. I'm gonna if I'm late, it's gonna be the end of me. And then he just saw Miles and leave. Like, it's kind of.
Doesn't he say something to her about like, hey, just like, you're gonna die soon, so just be ready for that?
Yeah. Which is it's just unfathomable. But what I took it to be is that every character in the movie says the exact thing that comes through their mind with no filter whatsoever immediately.
That's true.
It's almost as if every thought that they have is communicated verbally. Full stop.
I mean, since it is inspired by a stage play, that's kind of what happens in stage play. The audience knows every thought of the characters, so that might be what he's going for. Yeah. Oh, this might be my favorite. Mm-hmm. Well, no, there's some zingers in here. Your son told me that you have lots of hair under your arms.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Martin asked Steven that in the hospital during an examination.
Yeah, and
has this doctor lift up his shirt and show him his pit hair.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He's like, you don't have that much hair. My dad had more hair.
Yeah. And Steven takes it. He's just like, hey.
Yeah, all right.
He moves on.
Cool. That works.
5 minutes flat. I want this whole box empty, referring to a box of donuts.
Yeah. Shoving a box of donuts down his kid's throat because he won't eat.
Oh, gosh. Dad, Bob's dying. Oh, also the little boy in this movie is named Bob.
Bob, yeah.
So you get to hear adults frequently refer to a human being as Bob, and that human being is not a middle-aged man. It's a small boy,
small child who also has a very good portrayal in this movie. I think his acting is very good.
Well, yeah, I think it's.
Sunny Solozhik.
There's definitely it's one of those things where it's not these performances probably weren't easy, especially the actor's natural inclination is try to throw some emotion into what they're doing. And they are obviously being told to do the opposite in this movie. And so, yeah, I mean, and some of the lines he has to read, it's tough, man. There's some stuff that I don't feel great about talking about, but it's also like,
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the conversation between Steven and Bob on the phone.
Oh, yeah. So we should set this up. I think we should set it up a little bit. We're talking about
why is Bob dying, and what's the deal with Martin? Why is he talking about killing people?
I'm glad
Can you tell me about that?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, I'll lay it out for you. So Martin's character has developed a friendship with Steven by virtue of Steven killing Martin's father on the operating table because he was drunk. That's the assumption.
Well, it's not the assumption. It's what we learn later.
Yes.
And that's important.
Yes. That's what is communicated to us. Stephen likes to make it out that the anesthesiologist killed Martin's father.
He insists it couldn't have been his fault.
He insists that he could not do it. It can't happen. Surgeons never kill the patients. Yes. It's the anesthesiologist, which is the first conversation that Martin and Stephen have, I noticed, together with the anesthesiologist, as he mentions he's the best anesthesiologist that I know, and I saw he's introducing Martin to the anesthesiologist, and he says, "This is Martin. I met him at the mall with his parents last week." But they've developed a friendship in essence because Stephen feels bad for killing Martin's father, and he's that's what I think.
No, it's definitely what's happening.
Yeah, and so he's just trying to buddy up to him, buy him gifts, keep him around. He feels terrible for the death of his father, and Martin doesn't know better. Martin is psychotic. He genuinely has a break from reality with that.
That's interesting. That might be what's going on.
Possibly. You learn later that Martin is very cunning. He's very smart. He has a plan to get back at Stephen by poisoning his family, and then reveals that unless Stephen, the doctor that killed his father, chooses to kill one member of his family to pay for the death of his father, that all of them will die. And Stephen has to decide by himself who he is going to kill, and he has to do it before a certain day because there are steps that his family members are experiencing where they become paralyzed.
Yep.
Then they refuse to eat.
And then they bleed from the eyes.
Then they bleed from their eyes, and they only have a few hours to live. And so Stephen has to decide who to kill before that happens in order to save the rest of their family.
That's what Martin says.
And Martin explains that in the most, again, blunt, emotionless, rushed over a meal in a hospital.
Yeah, I wrote that down too because it was like where is it?
The way he says it, just the way that Martin communicates it, and also I want to mention while Tucker is looking for this, the time. So for the first, I would say probably 30 or 45 minutes of the movie, Stephen and Martin have a burgeoning friendship. They get along with each other.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Stephen refuses to meet Martin's demands, to meet him where he wants to meet him, to do the things that Martin wants him to do, then slowly things begin happening. What I recognize, the first instance of that, I believe, Martin is waiting at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Stephen does not meet him there, and then Martin takes the daughter out on a date or whatever it may be, and she comes back, and they ask, "Where were you?" And Kim is the daughter. She says, "Oh, I was with the son of one of Dad's old patients."
Yeah.
My thought was, how in the world does she know that was the case? How did she know that Martin, unless Martin knew that Stephen was? And so I think that's the first plant. He's slowly revealing that Stephen killed his father, and he's beginning to unveil his ploy to kill them. But that's
I was just thinking of the way he tells Stephen, "Hey, come up to the restaurant, to the caf. Let me have a conversation."
Yeah.
And he says, also, this is interesting. I thought Barry Kagan did a great job. I thought it was really cool how Martin was weird. There were times, especially toward the beginning of the movie, he's clearly looks like an older teenager, but his behavior, even the way he eats and drinks, the way that he uses his eyes and the way he talks, his posture, it's all very 12, 13-year-old, maybe even younger.
Underdeveloped.
And yes, and he says this whole crazy thing about hey, you got to kill somebody in your family, your whole family's going to die, and just how it's going to work. I'm sorry, it's just, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
He said the first thing he says is,
again, it's,
you're right. You're right. This time that we knew that was both coming has finally come. You need to kill a member of your family to pay for the life of the family member that you killed of mine. And then he just like really bluntly lays it out as fast as he can.
Yep.
And then it shows the beautiful thing about that shot in that sequence is the camera is on Colin Farrell's face, is on Steven's face.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't even hardly blink.
Yeah.
He's just completely emotionless. And then the next scene is Martin getting kicked out of the hospital. Like it's completely, he just either doesn't know how to take it in whatsoever, or he's just overwhelmed with anger. I don't know. But the way that was shot was like, there is no emotion with this, period. He's just void.
Mm-hmm. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what my thought was when I saw how he delivered those lines, but it was very, it was just like, Martin, it was as if you were taking a situation and an explanation that would be ordinarily not earth-shattering whatsoever, and you're taking that out, and then you're putting in this wild section of dialogue.
Yeah.
And the so the rest of the movie is Steven trying to figure out how to prevent what he has said is coming true from happening, but it's happening, and he can't do anything to stop it.
Yeah.
And he goes very far. He eventually kidnaps Martin, keeps him in his basement, threatens him, hurts him, beats him up. And here's something interesting. So you said Martin poisons his family. Do you not believe there's any supernatural element to his plot or his?
Well, I tried to figure out if he was doing it at the same time with the children. So there's an instance early in the movie where Steven invites Martin over to his house to meet his family, and he comes with gifts.
Yep.
I wonder if, one, I should preface, I do believe that there are some supernatural, spiritual, funky elements that are being played with that I'll talk about. But I wonder if it's a genuine, real physical poison or something along those lines that was either on the gifts that Martin gives. He gives the girl like a music note locket, and he gives the boy something else.
Yep. Or
if it's in the cigarette that he shares with Kim and kind of maybe presumptuously shares with Bob at another point.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly inviting himself and engaging with the children
he's claiming
himself.
more and more.
Yeah, he's doing more. He's invested more. There's scenes where the mom and dad are walking through the hallway and they go into the hospital and Martin's there. It's just like, well, how did he get here? What is he doing?
Yeah.
Why is he alone with this child?
Yep.
But yeah, so I also think that there is some more supernatural elements.
Well, I think that's interesting. I didn't even consider that. But that scene actually with the cigarette, he has this little moment where he talks about like how he smokes cigarettes and he started and he didn't stop and it's too late now. That kind of theme of inevitability. And I thought it was what I thought it was. It had not even occurred to me that he might have poisoned anyone, but you may very well be right. But what I thought was it was literally just like I said, this is kind of a world outside our experience. So my thought was, this is like a cosmic consequence that Martin, for some reason, understands or invokes that is unfair, and that he is doing nothing to make happen. It's just happening.
It's just happening.
And Martin is just saying,
he's aware
like,
of it, and he knows it.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, Steven, this is what's going to happen. It reminded me kind of
That's good. I like that.
It kind of reminded me of a fairy story. Like old, like British, German fairy story where the fairy's not Tinkerbell. Fairy is this wood-dwelling creature who, like, if you meet it, it will say, "I'm gonna steal your baby," that kind of fairy story.
Never heard that one before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll steal your baby, and your flour mill will have success. That's kind of fairy.
Yes.
So
those are my favorite kind of fairies, though.
Those are my favorite kind of fairy stories. It's really
Do they steal your children and feed it and give it food and change its diapers?
I think they eat it.
Oh,
I think that's what they do.
Well, I don't like that.
I don't like that kind of fairy. So that's kind of what that reminded me of. Just that kind of like the idea of like messing with some kind of creature and retribution.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steven tries to I don't know, beat it out of him, like how he can make it stop.
Yeah,
doesn't work.
So it should also be mentioned that a big there's, I think, manipulation is also a theme in this in some capacity, because
definitely
what I was aware of. See, we
had to restart the film.
We had to restart the movie, and it is the heart, and it is gargantuan and.
That's what we look like, dude.
Incredibly disgusting.
Split us open. That's right there.
That is so horrendous. But
it's crazy.
That's classic Yorgos. Classic Yorgi, you know? But I lost my train of thought. I was saying that manipulation is a theme. It plays out in multiple ways. And this is one thing that I wanted to bring up, and there's another. But it seems as though Colin Farrell's character, Steven, the doctor who has everything together, he's successful.
Yep.
He makes a mistake. It seems as though he's able to dictate the will and the events of any given situation, either by simply speaking it or by just being involved in it in some capacity. And it's from anything. It's anything from his sexual relationships with his wife that. Again, I could do without some of the grandeur of those things.
But you should know that she does just lay there.
She doesn't move. There's nothing crazy. It's just the way that it's portrayed isn't, this is a sexual encounter. The way it's portrayed is Steven is getting exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
Period. And it's portrayed very, very oddly because she's almost acting dead.
I think she's mimicking a painting on their wall.
Oh, interesting. That makes sense.
There's a painting of a woman reclining on their wall.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks like the pose she strikes.
That makes sense. It does, though. It more so seems to me that this is Steven dictating to the will of his wife to get what he wants out of it. And even later, there's a scene where they're cooking food outside, and he has having a conversation with somebody, and then immediately breaks and is like, "Don't cook the fish too long. I don't like it when it's cooked too long."
That's right. He does say that. Yeah.
He just randomly breaks.
Another one of the random lines that comes out of this movie.
Yeah, just randomly says that, and then I mean, it happens. But slowly he does that. And it doesn't go his way, and it starts to frustrate him, and that's where it starts to anger him. He shows up at Steven's house, or he shows up at Martin's house to try and, I don't know, get through to him or communicate something to him, and nobody answers the door, and he loses his ever-loving mind and has one of the best lines in the movie, I think. I won't say it because I
know what you're talking about.
Again,
put that on my
part of art. Part of art is profanity.
And he uses profanity in a way that's
hysterical.
Yeah. Rather shocking.
Rather shocking.
Did make me laugh.
He's knocking and banging on the door and screaming, and he says something along the lines of, "If you don't open this door, I'm going to come inside and I'm going to do something to you that I know you
just like you want it.
Just like you want it." And you're caught completely off guard. But I think it does a good job of portraying
he's falling apart.
This man is not getting what he wants.
Yeah.
He's not getting what he is trying to make happen, and it's driving him mad. And the opposite of that is that Martin has absolute full control of every situation, and he's not trying.
Yeah.
He's just participating, and that's best portrayed, I think, in the scenes where the kids can't walk.
Yeah.
Martin is immediately involved in that situation. And then, like, it's the first time they go to the hospital to visit Bob. Martin is there, and he says he's feeling much better. I asked him if he wants to go to the bathroom, and he said no. He wet the bed, and then the son can immediately walk right after that, right?
Yeah.
And then later in the movie, he's talking to Kim. He's talking to Kim on the phone, and she says, "Are you sure?" And he says, "Yeah, go ahead." Or you don't hear the conversation, but then she stands up and she starts walking. Like he's just manipulating the situation.
That is
spiritually, or he's aware of the effects of a poison that lingers for only so long, or I don't know. But
it definitely kind of pops the balloon of my idea that he's like not involved. He's just kind of aware of a cosmic process. But
I think it still fits within that because. He if he's aware of the process playing out, then he's probably aware of the sequence of events.
Yeah.
To some degree, to know when and where he can be involved, because he communicates enough to Kim that one of my favorite scenes is whenever Kim gets her phone taken away in the hospital because she's talking to Martin, and
one of the few moments when Steven's wife, played by Nicole Kidman, gets very vicious. One of the few moments.
Yeah, but then Kim immediately says, no need to no need to go ballistic, Mom, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. soon you won't be able to walk either. It's no big deal.
Yeah,
and she keeps saying, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just very odd and very interesting the way those things play out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, dude, just like I said, I feel like you could definitely laugh at some part of this movie. Like when Kim gets up, Bob's like, "Mom, why can Kim walk? Why can't I walk?" And her response is, "It's because she's older. When you get old," and I'm even putting more. It's more like delivered like, "It's because she's older. When you get older, you'll also be able to walk again," like that sort of thing. Yeah. When you get bigger, you'll be able to walk again. And then Bob is like,
I guess so.
Bob says something like, I'm gonna go and get up, and he just rolls out of bed and lands on the floor,
flops on the ground, and then his mom freaks out.
In one sense, it's disturbing, but it also is very funny to watch these kids drag themselves on the ground and just like not bothered about it. They're just like,
it's incredibly unsettling. I tried to think, is there some weird spiritual connection to this, that like crawling on their belly, eating the dust?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't want to stretch too far there, but I'm at the same point. Like they are literally bowing down at the feet of this of Martin.
That does happen. Nicole Kidman does that. She kisses his feet.
She kisses his feet. She's trying to garner his favor. I don't know. I read something that she's trying to run away with him. She's trying to like break him out and offer a life with him or something. I don't remember that.
I don't think I got that vibe.
No, but Martin doesn't participate in it at all. Martin he
doesn't take whatever bait she's trying to give him.
Martin even has an opportunity to engage in a relationship with Kim, who he likes.
Yeah.
And he says, "No, I'm going to leave. I don't want to, I can't, I have to go home. I can't be a part of this." And Kim is very embarrassed by it or whatever it may be. But they're all like affectionate and friendly towards Martin, except for Steven, because it's very obviously fake.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to think too much about the crawling on the belly thing. But when you see Kim crawl down the stairs, pulling herself by her hands,
it hurts
to the feet of Martin. I mean, it is disturbing, dude.
It is a crazy. Yeah. Now that you really focus on it, that's a crazy image.
I mean, it's funny, but it's also the first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is weird."
It is. Do you want to talk about the very end? What happens at the end, Zane?
Oh, yes. Well, we mentioned before, Steven has to decide which person in his family to kill.
Yeah.
It also should be mentioned that Kim comes to him and says, "Kill one of the kids because I can have another kid."
Well, not Kim, but his what? Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Sorry, Nicole Kidman's character, which I don't remember.
And then shortly after that, there's a shot of him just standing over her bed while she's over the bed while she's sleeping. Yeah. Like this look on his face, like, I can get another wife too.
I should just kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what it is like at the end he just can't decide, which is why he does what he does.
And so in the movie he is you're at the point, which is one of the only times in the movie that I think there's a roaming camera, maybe. I can't remember or it's on a gimbal, or it's a different shot. The lens is curved.
Yeah. And camera's great in this movie, by the way.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Very big and wide angle a lot. It's either shot from real low or real high a lot of the time, far away.
Yeah. So you enter into this scene following Steven. He has a big wool beanie on his head, and he's holding a gun.
Yep.
And you follow him into the living room.
It's the most tense scene in the movie by far.
Very, very tense. Silent too. I don't think there's music playing.
Yeah, it's all just environmental noises.
Yeah, but he walks into the center of, there's the wife on the couch, there's, the kids on two separate chairs, and they're kind of in a triangle. He stands in the middle, pulls the beanie over his face, and begins spinning in a circle. Not even very fast.
Ain't even gonna do any mighty more with this one.
No, he's just spinning in a circle and then randomly pulls the trigger and misses.
He misses twice.
He misses the wife. And then he spins again and he misses the daughter. It's relatively close to the daughter.
Yeah.
And you see Bob on the couch. I think Bob is on the couch.
He is.
And he has like blood like coming down his neck and onto his shirt.
Because his eyes are bleeding, which means he's gonna die.
Which means he's gonna die. And then he spins around in circles again and shoots Bob in the chest. Just murders him in cold blood. And that's the end of that sequence.
Yeah, and then the very, very end of the movie.
The very, very end of the movie, Barry Keoghan's Martin walks into a restaurant, the same restaurant that he used to meet Steven at. He sits down at the counter and looks over at the family, and they're eating a meal.
Yeah,
and they're completely emotionless. Again,
just kind of look at him.
and then they get up
And they leave.
And then they leave. And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie. So that's the end of the movie. Now, I want to talk about the way... let's go into thematic analysis. Let's talk about...
Yes.
So again, you mentioned Greek myth.
Yep.
And I went in kind of with that framework in mind. And not knowing particularly what Greek story this was taking elements from, I just kind of was like going along like, okay, which one is it? So here's what happened in my brain. I thought this was kind of like a version of like the Greek gods with Stephen and his wife. Like, sorry, I can't be bothered to remember her name. The characters are so emotionless.
Yeah,
but it's hard to get invested in them. But that's the point. Because you see a little kid get shot. You don't want to get invested in that kid. You don't want to get
invested whatsoever.
You don't want to love that kid. He's going to die. But so Stephen and his wife are like this Zeus and Hera thing. And the hospital is Olympus. The hospital is this sterile, clean, bright, unassailable place where they dwell in safety. They get to do their thing. They have all the power. They save people's lives. They have power over life and death in this place. And I just kind of thought it was that, where it's like these gods, these characters, they have all this power. What riches, wealth. Much like Zeus in Greek stories, he gets what he wants. He always gets what he wants. He can take it by force. You know?
Yeah.
Because that was always Zeus. How Zeus usually got children was not like romance. It wasn't No, it was he took by force. He took what he wanted.
Wasn't a sweet boy.
And I think it's like Stephen eventually is reduced to the childish anger that so many ancient gods go to in ancient stories, because for once his power over life and death is denied. He can't do anything about this curse, this consequence, and it frustrates him. Like that was what I took from it, is that it felt very much like an old story about like a squabble between Zeus and some minor god that he's offended.
Yeah.
That's what I think is kind of what happened in my brain.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think I began thinking about movies more so through I used to just intake movies and whatever kind of art without any real consideration for how I was being shaped or formed for a very long time. And I was being shaped and formed by it, but I haven't really been doing that for very long. And so I'm trying to take that perspective more as I'm watching films. And so when I watched this movie for the first time, I was pretty confused. I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to take away from this. It was very interesting. It was very odd. It was very unique. But then the second watch through, I think the big theme, the big spiritual takeaway that I was kind of hit by was it comes from the scene after Martin, after Stephen is kind of exposed. His wife finds out that he actually did kill Martin's father. She was kind of questioning
through very illicit means.
Yes, through very, very odd, very illicit means. And the shot that is immediately followed is an incredible use of, we're in the first episode, but I think it's an incredible use of nudity in a movie to display that Stephen has been exposed. He is.
Oh, he's because he's in the shower.
He's in the shower and
posed like a Greek statue.
You see him from the back and he's naked, and you're like, why is this shot in here? But then the second time I'm thinking, he has just been exposed in front of his wife.
Oh.
Everybody is aware of the fact
I
now.
didn't think about that.
Everybody's aware now of the fact that his sin, for lack of a better term, is in the forefront.
That's a pretty good term.
It is. It's a very good term. I didn't want to throw that out there, but I threw it out there. But
we didn't want this to be too Christian. We don't want to start using Bible terms here.
It's a pretty good term, but I think the main thread throughout that you see kind of being woven into the movie is, in my opinion, you can't escape from your sin just by covering it up and pretending that it's not there or lying about it to yourself and to other people. Eventually, it's going to come out. Eventually, it's going to be exposed. Eventually, you're going to be caught either as a fraud or as a murderer or as a liar or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And unless you deal with that, it's going to have drastic consequences in your life. Yeah. And so, obviously, this plays out to the nth degree in a movie where a man has to decide who in his family to murder in order to save the other ones. But But I thought that, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I could convince somebody to watch that movie with that in their mind, and I think they would be able to take that away from it. But.
Also, I just realized, I think we didn't even mention this, but yes, even though we used a bunch of Christianese at the beginning, we didn't explicitly say we are both Christians.
Yes.
And this could be called a Christian podcast.
Yes.
Just so you're all aware.
We are Christ
this late in the episode. But
we're not going to tell you which church we go to because
that'd be weird.
Just kidding.
But hey, if you come across us, say hi.
We're both Episcopalian.
We're both Episcopalian. Yeah. So if this blows up, you guys can seek us out in the Episcopalian churches.
Yeah.
And that's, what we're doing is we're getting people to go to church looking for us, but they'll just find Jesus.
But they'll find Jesus.
They'll find Jesus instead, and they'll stay. All right. That's, yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway. And I think I had a similar one. Yeah. Just like that loss of control and just like, I think Martin invokes like this cosmic scale of like consequences, like what you have done has consequences. You can't stop it unless you do this horrible thing. And I think it's kind of like the whole like Greek gods thing, but scaled down. I think that's if there's any spiritual takeaway, I think it's one of those movies that holds a mirror up to the audience where we like I said, the hospital is a refuge, is this place where there's so much power. He has a great home that's this shelter, this beautiful place. And none of that protects him from evil.
Yeah.
And it's random and it's not fair and you can't stop it. And at the end of the day, we have, as humans, we have these great technologies, we have all these methods for saving people and abating the effects of evil, but at the end of the day, we don't really have the control that we want.
Yeah.
And it does often make us feel exposed and scared, and we lash out. And so I thought that was, if there's a spiritual takeaway here, which is that's the crux of this show, is we want to be able to talk about, is that there in art? How does that shine through? It's a very bleak but real spiritual reality that at the end of the day, you cannot control what suffering comes your way.
Yeah.
And often you won't be able to make a bargain with whatever is causing the suffering. That usually doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, And it's, I think if you want to meditate on that reality, this is not a bad movie to check out. I would say, I think we should also evaluate, like, do we think whatever we're reviewing is particularly useful for spiritual formation for this discipline?
Yeah.
I would honestly say not really for this one.
No.
You don't need it.
No, not for this one.
Not particularly useful.
Yeah.
Again, I think it was like a really good depiction of the futility of all our efforts at control.
Yeah.
But
it's only maybe useful and in so much as if somebody would have turned away from this movie for fear of killing or for fear of nudity or for fear of profanity or something along those lines, maybe it would be useful in stretching your ability to think about those things through the lens of your faith and not simply running the opposite direction because of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
But again, you do not have to do that. That is not a requirement.
Yeah.
It's just something that we are trying to do and something that I think can be valuable.
And not that we don't have our lines and our limits. There certainly be,
definitely.
I think there's certainly movies and pieces of media out there that, one or both of us would say, I think we can skip that.
Yeah. I mean, most of Yorgos Lanthimos' movies I will not watch. I'm not going to go see Poor Things.
I'm not going to watch Poor Things.
No.
It's a good, I think it's a good exercise. And again, like I said, it's a real thing. Like a really important theme that's hit on a few times is Stephen's hands.
Yeah.
Somebody says one of the weird lines.
You have really beautiful hands.
You have beautiful hands. They're clean and soft.
Yeah.
They're beautiful hands. And they,
very well taken care of.
Hands with the power over life and death. And towards the end of the movie, again, one of the few moments where his wife gets very vicious, she says they're lifeless.
Yeah.
Those hands are lifeless.
They're lifeless, yeah.
And that's just like, I think that points to, I don't know, I just got this image of the marble statues of Greek gods, dead gods, lifeless, can't do anything.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a really astute observation, Tucker.
Thank you, dude. I think you've been making some good connections too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, dude. We're going to finish the podcast talking like this now.
Please don't.
You did it, dude. You're stuck with it.
No.
I'm just kidding.
But But yeah, like, and it also reminded me, just like, yeah, at the end of the day, we do all this work with our hands, we build these things up, but they fall down one day.
Yep. One day.
Somebody read Ozymandias. But we're in the cigarette scene. He's smoking. Cool kid. But so, yeah, I would say I would if that's something you're into, if you like weird movies, if you like weird
unique.
fairy tales, this is definitely one of the artsier things we'll check out.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's nothing particularly unchristian. If you watch this movie and you call yourself a Christian, I wouldn't bat an eye. I mean, it's a very odd movie. It's a very unique movie, in my opinion. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're
great conversation.
Great
fodder.
conversation. Great movie, to watch and then talk about with people that are also faithful followers of Jesus, that you can bounce these ideas off of. That's why we're doing this podcast. And there will be plenty of opportunities to do that in the future. So there it is.
Yeah, it's good that we're restricting ourselves for a certain amount of time, because what would be really great is if you listen to this and you hear about these movies and you say, okay, I kind of want to check that out. And you are able to have your own conversations with people, with your own observations. And so, I think that would be the most beautiful thing that could happen out of this.
I agree.
Is if even a few people were able to have more intentional conversations about art and about the films they watch, the music they listen to with their friends. I hope that's something that happens.
Yes, definitely.
And since that's going to happen in this coming year, do we want to talk about, I think we'll finish off this episode talking about our most anticipated releases, because don't you guys know, it's 2025. We're recording this on January 31st. So I'd love for us to talk about our top 5 releases. Oh, this scene's weird too. There's a scene where Kim is just like singing to Martin in the park.
The freaking Ellie Goulding song.
Yeah, and it's not great.
Because you gotta fire up. And they're gonna let it burn.
And it's not great.
Why would you sing that song? Why would you pick that song?
I think it's just another choice to be like weird and jarring.
This is the last thing I'll say on that. Why pick that freaking song, dude? That's a bad song.
Why have Groundhog Day on the TV?
That's a great point. It's a great movie. I'm not surprised that was Martin's dad's favorite movie. It's a great movie. But speaking of great movies, we're going to give some, again, we're going to talk just briefly through our top 25 or 2025 most anticipated movies. And I think Tucker's going to be pretty upset at my honorable mentions. But
okay, well, let's start with honorable mentions. Go ahead, Zane.
Okay, I'm going to lay them out.
Why would it be upset?
Because I think some of these are probably on your most anticipated.
I mean, it still means you want to see it.
Yeah, so. Maybe one. Maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not making any money on this podcast. So I am honorable mention number 1. We'll say Mickey 17 with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Directed by Bong Joon-ho. I think that will be good.
Yeah.
It's not my top 5, though. So, Mickey 17, The Monkey.
Yeah, dude.
Oswald Patton.
I almost said Chambers. That's definitely wrong.
No.
Oswald Chambers is so wrong.
Both
Who is Oswald Chambers? Didn't he write a devotional or something?
Osgood Perkins.
Osgood Perkins. It's not Oswald Chambers, dude. Somebody look up who Oswald Chambers is.
He's a pastor.
Osgood Perkins. Son of Anthony Perkins, the guy who played Norman Bates.
Very interesting. Yep. Also makes psychopath movies. So
yeah, dude.
That makes sense. Number 3 is Novocaine.
Very funny premise.
Looks very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Look these movies up. I won't break into these specifically, but Novocaine looks very interesting. The poster for this movie looks like the board game Operation.
It's so fun.
It's very interesting. The new Fantastic Four movie.
That surprises me.
It looks
a superhero
fun.
movie on your most anticipated. I love
it. Does
look
promising,
fun, and it's got this cool like 60s aesthetic that I love and I think is unique.
Yeah. And hopefully maybe you'll see some of these movies and think, I didn't know that was coming out this year.
Yeah.
And then another one, just in the theme of continuing our good buddy Barry Keoghan, there's a movie coming out in literally a week called Bring Them Down. Where
I heard about that.
Barry Keoghan plays a assailant who is in a fight with a sheep farmer, and
sheep farmers.
These sheep farmers are going back and forth with each other, but there's some very rough and tough shots in the trailer that make it seem like once again Barry Keoghan is going to play a wild psychopath that murders many sheep. So
Many sheep. Oh, there's a painting.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice.
Okay, refer back to the observation I made earlier for those of you who know what's going on.
That is very interesting.
Anyway,
But,
sorry.
Bring Them Down is my last honorable mention. So,
Yeah.
what are yours, Tucker?
My first one is Sinners. That's Ryan Coogler's new movie.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah. I think the movie's either going to be
Michael B. Acton.
Michael do be acting. I think that movie is going to be either banging
Or horrendous.
or a garbage fire. I think it's either going to be a really bad confusion of action and horror, or it's going to be an effective action horror.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for it. The
and I
trailer
really
is
want it to be good.
terrifying. You have no idea what he's scared of in the trailer.
Yeah.
What the heck is he scared of?
It's vampires. But,
yeah. I've heard it is vampires.
Kind of wish I didn't know that, but of course. But I think
Vampires,
it'll be good.
all the rage, huh?
I do love them. The Final Reckoning, I suppose presumably final Mission Impossible movie. I'm excited for that.
That'll be good.
I'm looking forward to that.
See Tom Cruise run like a psycho.
Yeah. Tom Cruise kills himself on screen.
Oh my god!
He falls off a cliff. He sacrifices himself.
Parachute doesn't open this time.
He straps himself to the bomb that's going to destroy New York City. And this time, we just put Tom Cruise on a bunch of C4.
Batman can't save you now.
Batman, have you seen Zane? Have you seen the Mission Impossible?
Yeah, of course. Robin is a sidekick.
Yeah. Ethan Hunt's not the central character, right? Tom Cruise is just there, and Batman and Robin are doing most of the stuff. Tron Ares is the third one, the new Tron movie.
Nice. Yeah,
I'm a Tron Legacy boy.
yeah.
And-
I had that in my honorable mentions, and I took it out.
No, I get it, because honestly, it might be very average. But also, Nine Inch Nails is making the music, and that makes me.
And Jared Leto plays Ares.
I know. I
see.
know.
We'll see. I like Jared Leto.
He's fine.
Speaking of art, 30 Seconds to Mars, frickin' rips.
They are
Love
pretty
that band.
good.
Yeah, but continue.
Isn't it unfortunate how like really awful people can be like really good at stuff?
Oh yeah.
Superman. James Gunn's Superman is in my
Honorable
mention.
mentions.
That still means I really want to see it. There's a lot of great movies coming out this year, I think. But yeah, James Gunn's Superman. If this pops off, James Gunn, officially the best comic book movie director ever.
Ooh.
I think. Because, I mean, even though favorite movie is... I know.
Christopher Nolan.
My favorite movie is The Dark Knight. But the...
Zack Snyder?
Are you sure it's not Zack Snyder? But I just think with the way
Burton?
he's... at this point, James Gunn... If he does this really well, he will have turned the DC universe around. He will have
100%.
made the best trilogy in Marvel's history. And he's made like critically acclaimed other projects like the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. And it's like, he's just like,
Yeah, he's very good.
there's
Very,
clearly
very
a passion there that's great. And
He's seemingly the only hope for the DC extended universe whatsoever.
and then finally, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is my final honorable mention.
His Frankenstein,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's what they're going to call it.
well,
but
yes. No,
he's the director.
not Maggie Gyllenhaal's Frankenstein?
Isn't that called The Bride?
The Bride, yeah, but it looks good.
I haven't seen the trailers.
I almost included that in my top 5. It's
Oh,
not even
really?
in my honorable mentions, but I almost was like, just because Christian Bale's in it, I was almost like,
He is my favorite.
Dadgum that boy. He can do it, you know?
I know I'm basic, by the way.
He can Frank that Stein.
Saying The Dark Knight's my favorite movie and Christian Bale's my favorite actor. I know it's basic. I know it.
It's very good.
It's fine.
It makes perfect sense to me.
Anyway,
Top 5? Starting at 5.
Yeah, go ahead and go in your top 5.
All right, my number 5 most anticipated movie is The Accountant 2.
With Shia
LaBeouf. I really loved the first Accountant movie.
Really?
Yeah, I really, really liked it. That was one movie that I watched that I was like, why is this not like being talked about more? I mean, looking back on it, it's definitely not a perfect movie by any means, but I think it's kind of, you look at like The Equalizer, you look with Denzel Washington.
Those are fun movies.
You look at kind of the beginnings of John Wick, and I think The Accountant was the first movie that I watched in that like action shooter kind of genre,
precision killer genre.
Yeah. It was very, very interesting, and Ben Affleck plays a pretty convincing autistic accountant murderer.
Oh, I was definitely thinking of a different movie. I was thinking of The Tax Collector with Shia LaBeouf.
No. No.
This is the accountant.
The accountant, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe you know Shia LaBeouf's in The Accountant too, and I just don't, so I'm just going to go with it. But nope, definitely Ben Affleck.
I was thinking of the film by David Ayer.
It's Ben Affleck and Anna Kendrick.
That's hilarious.
It's a pretty good movie if you haven't seen the first one. So number 5, The Accountant 2. Tucker, what's your number 5?
My number 5, I didn't put these in any particular order, but I will just, I mean, actually I put them in calendar order. So
nice.
I'll go
Cool.
from,
I'll go
from the one coming out the soonest. So that is The Monkey. The Monkey comes out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was my honorable mention.
I'm going to go see The Monkey for sure.
I would love to go see it.
It's going to be wacky.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's
Number
good.
4?
Number 4, 28 years later.
And now, you know what? Let's talk about this together because it's also on my top 5.
Nice.
28 years later.
Yeah.
Heck of a trailer.
One of the most unsettling trailers I've ever seen. Truthfully, genuinely, that the the voicing of that poem.
Boots.
Oh my gosh, it's disgusting. It makes me want to throw up. It's so unsettling.
Yeah.
But it's obviously the third installment of the 28 Days Later zombie franchise that I watched 28 Days Later for the first time this year and loved it. So incredible. I did pirate it from a Chinese website, and
because it wasn't available anywhere.
Yeah. And I thought this movie looks awful, and then I realized it just looks like that.
That's how it was made.
That's how it's just supposed to do it. So maybe they'll go back to that for 28 years later. But
Guerrilla style.
Be interesting to see how Cillian Murphy's involved in that. Aaron Taylor Johnson is one of the main characters. Ralph Fiennes is in this movie.
Yeah,
so
there's some cool stuff. Yeah, I haven't seen 28 Weeks Later yet. I got to get on that.
I haven't either.
28 Years Later is definitely in my top 5. Yeah,
looks horrendous.
Number 3,
but very good. Number 3 is Superman. Yeah, I'm incredibly excited for Superman. I saw the trailer and I thought, and then I watched it again. I was like, oh.
We had this conversation where you're like, I don't know, man, but what changed?
You.
Oh.
I was like, I don't know. I watched it the first time and I was like, Superman kind of looks like a pansy.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, he's kind of supposed to be. He's just like a good farm boy that loves his mommy and doesn't want to hurt anybody. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been watching too many Zack Snyder movies. And then I watched it again and I was like, oh, this is like James Gunn to the max. I've heard there's no CGI on the actor's face. Positives, no mustache gap.
That is good.
But also the costumes look good. The way the music was utilized in the trailer was convincing. I'm eager to see how they use Cosmo because
Crypto.
Yeah, sorry.
Cosmo.
Crypto. Yeah,
Cosmo's from Marvel, dude.
Yeah, sorry,
you gotta know these things,
dude. See, that's what I'm talking about. But yeah. I am eager for it.
Good. I'm glad that
I'm gonna go see it for sure.
Well, let's. Oh, they're doing it's the hair scene.
Oh yeah.
But I'm excited for that. I really think it's going to be a Superman who never hurts anyone, who tries his best. Like even if he like takes down some robbers, he just like picks them up and like hangs them.
Good old boy.
Hangs their shirts on a light pole. Doesn't hurt them.
Yeah.
And finally faces a threat that's like, am I going to have to hurt somebody? And that I think will be a really interesting, thing. I may be wrong, and I don't mind being wrong. But
what's your third?
My third is okay, so the third I'll mention, second on my list,
sorry.
Mickey 17.
I knew it.
It just looks funny.
It does look funny.
And Robert Pattinson, Robbie P.
Robbie P. He's growing on me, man.
That guy's awesome.
He's incredible.
So, yeah.
My Batman, as I say.
My Batman.
That's
what?
That's
Fair.
my Batman.
Fair. All right, number 2.
Number 2, Michael.
The Michael Jackson movie?
The Michael Jackson biopic.
With his son?
Starring his nephew, I think. Is it his son or is it his nephew?
Oh, wait, yeah, it might be his nephew.
I think it's his nephew, but Lord have mercy, do I love some Michael Jackson.
That's fair.
That man does it. He's got it.
He got it.
He doesn't have it anymore.
He doesn't have it. He's been dead for like 15 years.
Most people will look back at, this is a segue. How about this one? Most people will look back at 9/11 and think, I know exactly where I was when 9/11 happened. I have no clue where I was at 9/11. I know exactly where I was
when you learned that
Michael Jackson died. I know. I can tell you. I can take you. I can direct you to the exact spot. I could open a Google map and draw to the location in Como, Colorado.
You were at Como.
I was at Camp Como, dude. So I love Michael Jackson, and I'm very excited. I love biopics. I love good biopics.
Yeah.
And we're kind of hitting a trend where Elvis was incredible. I loved Elvis.
Sure.
I've heard a Complete Unknown is very good. I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah.
I'm going to, and I've heard it's very good. So hopefully that trend continues with Michael.
I would not mind. All right. So then next, Warfare.
Oh,
Warfare is
yes.
my next one on my list.
True story.
I loved Civil War.
Me too.
And
Me too.
Alex Garland is going ham on the realistic depiction. Well, I mean, really, it's his like combat and military advisor on Civil War. I think Ray Mendoza is his name.
Ray Mendoza. Yep.
And I'm just super excited. Joseph Quinn, Will Poulter.
Oh, wow.
Is in the movie, and those guys
that.
are both really talented. And yeah, I love realism. Sometimes I think I can enjoy it a bit too much, where it's like I want everything to be accurate, but I think it is going to be, and I think it'll be really cool and intense.
And, very intense.
And number one
for me is F1. I am incredibly excited for F1.
What is this project?
You've never heard of this?
No.
This is, oh my gosh, it's my most anticipated movie, and I can't remember the director's name. Who directed Top Gun, the most recent Top Gun?
Oh gosh. Well, actually, it's the director of Tron Legacy. Did you know that?
Krasinski. That's not Joe Krasinski.
Sarnowski? Joseph Karnowski? It's something like that.
Something like that. So one of the skis.
Yeah.
He directed Top Gun.
Tron.
Yeah, and did an absolutely incredible job with Top Gun. The feeling that you were inside a fighter pilot's cockpit during battle.
That does translate
It
well.
was incredible. The sound, the direction, the story was very good, but obviously the director didn't have a whole lot to do with that.
Yeah.
But this is that, but in the world of Formula One racing.
It's Top Gun Maverick, but on the ground.
But on the ground. And I absolutely love Formula One.
Oh, yes.
I watch it incessantly. I keep up to date with every bit of it. And Brad Pitt is the main actor. And it's been a long time coming. I've watched as the season has been going on in Formula One. There are literally days where they're practicing, they're out running, and there's a film crew with film cameras.
That's cool.
So they're like pretend
We're getting
racing.
real action, brother.
It's very, very real. It's very cool. And the main producer is Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion in Formula One race car driver. So it's going to be accurate and good. And
it's going to be accurate. I hope it's not one of those things where the producer's like, no, this is what should happen in this story. Lewis, just tell us how you drive cars.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what you think the narrative should be like.
Yeah. But I'm excited, and we'll have to go see that one together because I think you'll very much enjoy it.
I think I will too. I really love Top Gun Maverick. Finally, this is not my number one.
Most anticipated.
This is not my most anticipated. Well, actually, maybe it is in a sense. It's coming out the latest this year out of the ones I picked for top 5. The Running Man, directed by Edgar Wright and starring Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
I just recently read that book, and
remake of the 80s movie with
a readaptation, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
The book is actually set in 2025.
Oh wow!
And so I'm fascinated. I love Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright is among my favorite directors. I've seen all his movies, except for A Fistful of Fingers, but that one's impossible to find. Whatever, beside the point. But he is so good, and like, this is such a pretentious word to use, but it's true. It's very kinetic. Like his movies just like move, and they're so in your face and awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what he brings to the world of The Running Man, because it's a very interesting dystopian tale.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. I'm very excited for that one too.
Yeah.
I not as excited as you, or it would have been on my list, but I'll go see it, dude.
Clearly you're passionate about it. I mean, I don't know what that's all about, but well, dang, I think that's just about all the time we have for this episode.
Maybe the last thing to say about those is that towards the end of the year, obviously some of our favorite podcasts that do movies kind of break down their top 10 list.
Oh yeah.
So we'll probably have an end of year top 10 breakdown of the movies that maybe none of these movies will be on our top 10. Well, who knows?
That would be crazy.
I'd love to go see some more new 2025 movies. So maybe I'll see some with you, my friend.
Amen. That'd be awesome. But hey, we'll be back.
We will be
eventually. At some point, we'll decide what movie we're going to watch and
send us your recommendations.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
the spiritual TSDOAA 2025@gmail.com.
Amen. I'm looking forward to this. I really think this is a good idea.
Yeah, this is good. This will be fun. Look at that. We're right at an hour and 15 minutes.
That's
so
perfect.
Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. We're very excited to be diving into this endeavor. We look forward to talking about more art. Again, send us your recommendations. We will catch you guys very soon.
Hey, and may your encounters with art be a spiritual experience.
Indeed, yeah.
I hope that this blesses you, and the art you encounter blesses you, and you get to know God through art a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Goodbye. Good luck. Good night. We didn't figure out how to sign out.
Good. Anything else that you?
Maybe I'll just slowly take the mic away from my mouth.
Yes,
so
me as well, and
goodbye,
I'll
that'll
reach
be
out
it.
for the button.